In this video, we're going to be looking at Lab 2 in statistics. First, we want to open up the spreadsheet from Google Classroom. This is a spreadsheet that has data from multiple births in North Carolina. The first thing we want to look at is how you can determine how many rows are in your spreadsheet. So one way to do that is if we select column A, and then we hit Control down arrow, it will take us to the bottom. You can see we now have 1,001 rows. And because our first row is the labels, that tells us there is 1,000 rows. Control up, control down will take you up and down to the top and bottom of each column. Another thing that Google Sheets does is if I click on A up above father's age, down in the right, it gives me information about this row. You can see there's the sum, that doesn't really help us. There's the average, which is a little over 30s, that'd be the average age of the fathers. It tells us the min is 14, the max is 55, and the count is 1,001. Another way of determining how many rows. But you'll also notice it says count for numbers, 829. That tells us some of the rows do not have a number, but they have letters. And you can see that up here in row 3, there is an NA. So another way we can determine these types of things is by filtering the column. And this is the first thing it talks about on your notes, how to create a filter to determine the number of items in a column. So in our spreadsheet, if we highlight A, and I go up to data, and I say create filter, it puts these 3 lines, this little triangle here next to the father's age. If I click on that, and I scroll down a little bit, it shows me all of the values, as we said, 14 to 55, and NA. If I clear all of those, and then I just select the one I'm interested in this case, NA, and click OK, this filters out all of the rows that don't have NA. So you can see it's just NA for all of these. And down in the bottom right, you can see there's 171 of the rows have NA. That means there's 171 total. I can go back up and remove the filter, and we're back to our original. And you can see that 171 added to our numbers would give us our total count. Another way you could do this is if I come over to the side here, I could also do this with a count if. If I do equals count if, parenthesis, and I go back and I highlight column A, and then I do comma, quotes, NA, quotes. What this is going to do is it's going to count the number of NA in column A. And you can see over here to the right, I have 171. That's another way of counting if you want to find words in our column. You can do count if, and it tells you how many there are. If we go back to our notes, there's the count if. The next thing we want to do is make a two-way table or a contingency table or a pivot table. So let's follow these steps. We first go back and we highlight habit, white mom. We go up to insert pivot table. And I'm going to create one in a new sheet. And it gets this. Here's my table on the left, and here's where I'm going to edit it on the right. If we go back to our notes, it sets me through here. So I go to Insert, Pivot Table, New Sheet. I want to add rows and select White Mom. Add rows, White Mom. I then select columns, add columns, and select Habit. So I go to Columns, Habit. Finally, I want to add values and select habit. So back to my spreadsheet, add values, select habit. It fills in the numbers. Now I want to click the X to close it. And now I have created this pivot table. So now in that looking at two different columns, I can compare smoker and white, non-smoker, not white, and trying to compare those, if I go to the pivot table, I can see, one, I had NA for non-smokers, but then I can see how many white smokers, non-white smokers, non-smokers, and you can kind of see all the numbers. Once again, you can see 1,000 is my total number of rows. And then you're able to ask questions like, how many smokers are there total? 126. How many white moms are smokers? White smokers would be 96, and so forth. So using a pivot table allows us to look at those two different columns in conjunction to be able to determine our numbers. The final thing we want to do is we want to create a random sample. So if we go back to here, and if we follow the directions here, in column N, we want to just write random. So we do random. Below that, we are going to type equals and random with just a parenthesis there. So we go here. This is similar to what we did on the calculator. This is going to create a random number. We hit enter, and then we want to autofill. So what that does is that creates a random number for every single row. So our next step, we then want to copy that whole column and paste into O. The problem is these are a formula here that can create problems. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to copy, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to paste. I'm going to paste special and only paste the values. So what that does, you can see row N, all of the numbers changed. The problem is when you use these formulas, every time you hit a button, the numbers change. So now that I have row O, which is just the numbers, the values, I'm going to delete comma N with the formula. So I come back here and I delete the column. Now, what I'm able to do is I am able to sort the entire spreadsheet by those random numbers. So I have 1,000 rows here. I want to randomly pick 50. So these numbers on the right are random. So if I take my entire spreadsheet, I click up there on the left to get it. I'm going to go to data, sorting options. I am going to sort by the random number. So this changed all my columns based on these random numbers. If you go over here, I'm going to copy the first 51 of these and paste into a new sheet. So to do that, to get a new sheet, I hit plus. I go back. I am now going to copy the first 51 rows. I'm going to Control C. Control V. Now I've copied these values into a new sheet, and this new sheet, as we see, if I go Control and I go to the bottom, I only have 50. So out of those 1,000, I now have a new sheet, a random sample of only 50. And then I can then ask questions like, okay, out of this sample, how many were married? Use COUNTIF. Find the average, do a pivot table. I can do all of this instead of the whole spreadsheet, just this random sample of 50. So on those notes, those are all of the skills that you will need for this lab.